My name is Evelyn. Today I'll be presenting a business analytics case study focused on 5 major players in the UK electricity sector. The objective is to understand the relationship between key financial indicators, namely liquidity, workforce size, and tangible assets over a 10-year period. This analysis will help inform capital investment and operational efficiency strategy in the sector. We'll be using data extracted from FAME with a focus on companies like SSC Generation Limited and Energia Customer Solutions. The tools and technique employed includes descriptive statistic and regression modeling, cumulating strategic recommendations. Let's get started. Welcome to the background and motivation section of this study. The UK electricity sector has been undergoing rapid structural and operational changes, primarily driven by 3 key forces: net zero carbon target, privatization, and large-scale technological investment. This transition have not only influenced how energy is generated, but also how firms allocate capital and structure their assets. Tangible assets such as infrastructure, power plants, and generating facilities remain a cornerstone of operational capability in this industry. Thus, forecasting tangible assets accurately is critical for both strategic planning and capital budgeting decisions. However, despite their relevance, there remains a limited firm-level understanding on how key internal variables like liquidity and employees count influence these tangible asset holding. Liquidity reflects a company's ability to meet short-term obligations, while workforce size often correlates with operational skills. But the link between these variables and fixed capital investment remains underexplored, particularly in a longitudinal setting. The main objective of this study is to bridge that gap. We aim to examine how liquidity ratio and employee number influence tangible assets accumulating across UK energy firms using 10-year of panel data. The next slide provides an overview of the dataset sourced from the FAME database, covering UK electricity production companies. The selected variables for our analysis include the liquidity ratio, number of employees, and tangible assets. My main focus is on historical data from 2014 through 2023. These variables were selected due to their strong theoretical grounding in business performance analysis. Liquidity ratio insights into short-term financial health. Employee numbers reflect operational capacity, and tangible assets show long-term capital investment. My focus is to identify trends and deficiencies that could be translated into actionable insight for business management. For business managers, this chart presents the liquidity ratio of 5 UK electricity generation companies from 2014 through 2023. Liquidity, as we know, reflects a company's ability to meet short-term obligations. A value below 0.005 indicates extremely tight working capital conditions. Most of the companies consistently maintain very low liquidity ratio across the decade. This might suggest tight operational cash flow management or reliance on credit lines. We observed liquidity spike post-COVID in 2020 in SSE Generation Ireland and Kirby, which could indicate precautionary cash holding or response to COVID-induced uncertainties. However, several firms also show liquidity drops around 2020 to 2021, possibly due to reinvestment, fuel price volatility, or working capital strain. According to Dennis and Sibuko, firms may refrain from reinvesting assets liquidity under economic uncertainty, instead holding cash to preserve flexibility. Similarly, Kim and Welbach found that high liquidity doesn't always translate into investment, especially when firms are uncertain about future demands or financing. Here, we examine the evolution of tangible assets levels. These assets, plants, machineries, and infrastructures form the backbone of electricity production. We can see that SSE Generation Limited maintains a large stable assets above 3.5 million pounds through the period. This reflects their scale and capital-intense operations. By contrast, smaller players like Energia Customer Solutions or SSE Atricity remain under the £5,000 mark, suggesting lighter operations or service-based roles. There's also limited upward movement in assets for these smaller firms, potentially hinting at challenges in capital expansions, possibly due to funding gaps, policy restrictions, or scale limitations. As noted by Beck et al. In 2005, access to finance in capital-heavy industries in large firms is often restricted. Larger firms can leverage skills and collateral, while smaller firms face barriers to investment. Together, these findings highlight substantial disparities in assets development, which could shape strategic planning and sectoral resilience. This graph tracks forced work trends across 5 key energy firms over a 10-year span. SSE Generation Limited and SSE Ireland consistently employ the highest number of workers, indicating large-scale operations and potentially more capital-intensive activities. In contrast, KB Generation Limited experienced a sharp decline, over a 75% drop in employee count from 2015 through 2023. This could indicate automation, restructuring, or plant shutdowns. Firms like Energy and Electricity maintain lean staffing throughout, possibly focusing on efficiency or outsourcing. This table summarizes the main median and standard deviation of tangible assets across selected firms. SSE Generation Limited has the highest mean and standard deviation, reflecting both the large scale and high variability. Energia shows a low median but high standard deviation, signaling possible outliers or recent assets expansions, including the median and standard deviation alongside the mean adds depth to the interpretation, while mean provides a central value. Standard deviation indicates volatility, and mean helps detect skewness and potential data anomalies. This bar chart visualizes the average liquidity ratio for each firm across 2014 through 2023 period. SSE Electricity and SSE Ireland show the highest average liquidity, suggesting these firms maintain more cash relative to liabilities, possibly due to cautious management or limited reinvestment opportunities. Interestingly, SSE Generation Limited, despite being the largest in terms of tangible assets, has the lowest liquidity ratio. The implication is that large firms with heavy assets may channel available resources into capital investment or rely more on debt, reducing their relative liquidity. There's a supporting theory that firms prefer internal funding over external finance and may hold minimal cash to reduce agency costs. This slide presents the average tangible assets held by each company over the 10-year period. As shown, SSE Generation Limited has by far the largest fixed assets averaging close to £3 million, which dwarfs the other firms. In contrast, Energia Electricity and SSE Ireland show much smaller average asset level, often below £3,000. Kirby occupies a middle ground, suggesting some mid-scale generation or storage capacity. Disparity in asset base is likely reflective of each firm's generation capacity, grid ownership, and access to long-term financing. Firms with larger capital base typically benefit from economics of scales, improved market power, and more efficient energy production. Here, we present the regressive model that predicts tangible assets based on liquidity and number of employees. The average R-shaped squared is like 0.64, meaning 64% of the variability in assets value is explained by our model, a strong result for financial forecasting. The liquidity coefficient is 625 million, statistically significant with a p-value less than 0.001. This suggests a negative correlations. Firms with higher liquidity often fare fewer tangible employees. Coefficient is positive and significant. Each additional employee is associated with a 3.078 pounds increase in tangible assets, reflecting the link between labor intensity and infrastructure. These findings aligns with asset-heavy industry where workforce growth often accompanies capital investments. In conclusion, based on our findings, we propose two key recommendations. First, companies with stable operations and low liquidity should consider reinvesting excess cash into tangible assets. Doing so could improve infrastructure and future returns. Second, scaling the workforce can positively impact assets growth, as evidenced by the regression results. Workforce expansion, especially in technical roles, can enhance production capacity and operational efficiency. Both recommendations align with the long sustainability goals of the UK energy sector and are grounded in the evidence we have analyzed throughout this presentation. Thank you.